Hi, everybody. This is Sally B. Sedgwick, otherwise known, if you've been following me at all, as B. And today I'd like to talk a little bit about time zones and watches and other things that sort of we've done as people to manage time around us. But first, as always, let's start with the breath. We'll do 3 of these. And what we'll do is be breathing in, and I want you to feel as if the air is going through every single pore of your body. And the other thing to notice before, also, since for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, it's winter and we're getting a little tired of it, and think we should need a vacation. And if you're in the Southern tier, maybe you need a vacation too. At the end of each breath, there's this little pause. And every time that's a gift to remind you that that's just a little bit of time that's yours. Let's go. Breathe in. Hold. Feeling it go through every single pore into your fingertips. Can you feel it in your fingertips? And out. Keeping your whole body soft. In. Hold. Spreading energy and life through all of you. And out. And there's that little vacation right here before you go in. And out. Thank you. I always feel more alive when I do something like that. Because breath really will do that. It'll center you, it'll give you a way to meditate, it will do all these great things that help you get through a day, start a day, end a day, calm you down, make you more centered, help you listen, minor things like that. Anyway, as some of you know, I just came back from 3 months in Thailand, where I had every intention of talking to you all, and sort of failed internet connection, at least not a reliable one that I knew was going to work all the time in a place where I could talk to you. That's my excuse. It really is probably just an excuse, and I'm sticking to it. But the thing about Thailand is that if you live, for example, in the eastern part of the United States, it's almost always exactly 12 hours later there. So right now, it's most people are headed for bed. That's what's happening. And because we cross the date line, there's something called the International Date Line in the Pacific Ocean. It actually is later, even though I went west to get there, it really is tonight there. Did that come out in English? The other thing about that trip is it's a lot of hours on a plane. One flight can be almost 12 hours. And then there's connections and this and that. When I was coming back, I triumphantly said I had 26 hours worth of travel in front of me. And since I like airplanes and airports, that was for me sort of a joke because I actually like that kind of thing. But I'm weird. I understand that that's not maybe your norm. But what was interesting about both going and coming back, and I want to start there, is that everybody talks about jet lag and time things. And, excuse me, where I'm staying has puppies that think everything is urgent. Skoshi, it's okay. Just to prove I really am in a real house. And part of that is true. Your body gets used to patterns. People that do this all the time, and like I talked to somebody the other day whose partner was over in Vietnam and was going to stay at least 6 weeks or 6 months or six something or others because it was so far. And then I talked to somebody else whose husband like goes to China for a week. And so it depends on how what game you're playing at the time. My experience is it depends on what energy waits for you on the other end. I partly wanted to go from when I moved to Thailand, I was staying with a family that's part of my extended family, whose normal pattern is to go to bed during the week 8, 9 o'clock at night. Maybe they watch television in their room, I don't know, and get up fairly early. Coming back, I moved within a family whose normal pattern is to go to bed maybe around 2 in the morning, and who never watch television at all. So it was different energies and different pieces. So there was nobody to riff off of, if you will, to stay awake once I got to Thailand. So I wasn't on US time, but I also wasn't really on Thai time. So it was a different piece of energies. But one of the things I did that always works is to believe my watch. Your watch is usually pretty accurate. If you have a smartwatch or a smartphone of any kind, it will automatically update to whatever time zone you're in. And you look at it and you say, that time. An example, though, of how arbitrary this is in terms of what we do with chronological time on the way back, remember I was crossing the date line the other way, I left Seoul, which has a marvelous airport with great Wi-Fi, just saying. And I left Seoul, Korea at 8:30 in the morning. I mean, 8:30 at night. I left 8:30 at night. And I got into Atlanta at 7:30 at night, the same day. And this is what we do with time as people, as ways that we play with how we sort of try to manage our day and all the things. It's just numbers. I mean, theoretically, I got a whole extra hour, and I was on the plane for way more than 24. So with that kind of arbitrariness, I just want you to hold that the numbers of time are really only what we say they are. Does that make any sense at all? That while we deal with chronological clock time is a way only for us to connect with other people. It's bus schedules, it's train schedules, it's appointments, it's whatever we're doing in our interactions is how we've done it. Another experience with how arbitrary this can somehow be is that over Christmas, this past year, I went to visit my family, and they decided to take a road trip to Yosemite. And I'd never been, and did I want to go? And sure, I mean, I'll go almost anywhere in case you can't figure that out. But we got in a car, and we drove, oh, 2 hours, 3 hours, I don't know. And it was getting dark. It was getting very, very dark, and we were in the park, and we'd stop for one photo opportunity. I was with people that love to take pictures, and we were going up the thing, and I looked at my watch, and it was 7 o'clock. I thought, wow, it's a lot later than I thought it was going to be, but 7 o'clock. We got up, and we got down the mountain. And I looked at my watch, and it was 5 o'clock. Now, clearly there was something around radio signals. I mean, we can do a scientific explanation for this. It wasn't magic, it wasn't rocket science. But I was willing to believe that it was 7 o'clock because my watch said so. And it didn't matter. I mean, it was just, that was the way time was playing and being. So where have you done this? Where have you noticed sort of an arbitrariness? I mean, times and schedules can be very useful. When is there an arbitrariness to you? I'm finding that a little bit, and when I go to bed and when I wake up, because it doesn't matter right this second where I am. When it does matter, then it matters. So, but where is it arbitrary for you? I've talked about how long it might take to get somewhere and not worrying about it and seeing how that comes up. I've talked about pieces around the edges and in how time can play for you at different ways. But how are you actually using the concept that time is your friend? And if time is my friend, going 12 hours differently in one part of the world and gaining a whole day coming back and gaining and losing 2 hours in the middle of a mountain and not knowing why at the time, and it doesn't mean much of anything. Where does time seem arbitrary to you? When does it really, really not make a difference? We focus so much on how time doesn't work for us. Just play with me. Talk about where it actually doesn't, where it works, where it either works or doesn't work, but it doesn't matter. Where is it just sort of like this little dance of numbers that we as people put on things? And that's your homework. Start paying attention to that little tiny bit of place where how we define and work with time appears for you. Okay, one more breath to close this down. Remember to feel it all the way to your toes, fingertips, top of your head. Let's inhale. Hold and just sort of feel that energy. Let it out slowly. And that little pause before you breathe in is your vacation, present from me. Thank you. Have a great time. I'll be back to you soon.